Hello, everyone. Today we have a special guest for the New York Dance and Art Innovation Quarantine Talks, the winner of the composition competition third edition for the saxophone part with Kundalini for saxophone alto, the composer originally from Brazil, Rodrigo Bussad, but currently doing his PhD at the University of Chicago. And also before, he also did his master at the university in Miami to the Frost School of Music. So he is with us. He's joining for the conversation. We will ask him a couple of things about his recent difficult times during this quarantine, also about his recent projects, and also about the winning piece that soon you will also can see on our channel. And you can also vote for those 4 winning pieces because the winner of the public voting will be performed on the next Chopin and Friends Festival in November here in New York. So first of all, I would like to introduce Rodrigo, our guest. Hello, Rodrigo. So nice to see you and congratulations for your winning piece.
Hello, Jacob. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being with us. Rodrigo, so now you are currently actually in Brazil, right? You are not in Chicago. Where are you now?
Correct. I am in a close city in my hometown, which is close to São Paulo, about 100 kilometers from São Paulo city, and that's the southeast of Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And I came here last year, just a couple of weeks before quarantine started, because a couple of days actually. It was like
it
so
was March.
close.
It was March, right?
It was March, and I arrived on March 15th. If I'm not mistaken. Quarantine in Brazil started on the next Monday.
Okay.
So it was like March 18 or 19. And I came here to do some fieldwork research on this ethnomusicology paper I was writing about soccer chants and the soccer chants musical culture in Brazil. And I came to, and I had a bunch of people lined up for interviews. And when I came, the quarantine started, and soccer or football season ended or was put on hold. So I had to do all my interviews online. The paper is published and everything now, but I had to do everything online. And that was my first experience with the quarantine. And I'm here since then because, as you probably are aware, vaccination in Brazil, it's very slow. It's going on very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't get my vaccine yet. So I have to be in quarantine at home, not going out much. And when I do, of course, I do with protection. But yes, I'm here for almost a year and a half now, and I didn't plan for it. I came to do research for 2 weeks, and then suddenly I'm here for more than a year now. So it's a bit of a crazy times.
It's a very crazy time. But Rodrigo, so how about your recent last year? Did you compose? Did you find some inspiration? What is difficult for you to compose? How did you feel?
It was rather not difficult. I would say it was rather different. What I started, so after a little bit of adaptation, of course, I was back home for I didn't know how long, and I didn't have that much material. I brought like very few staff paper with me. I didn't bring my desktop computer with me, of course, because I was traveling for 2 weeks.
Yes.
I only had like a little laptop, and so what I started to do is, but I had my instruments here, my guitars, my bass, yes, my classical guitars as well, my upright piano. That in my studio in Chicago, I never had those things. I didn't have space for that. So I used to use instruments at the University of Chicago, of course. But I started to, my first project here for quarantine was this little project I have, and it's still ongoing, and I'm gonna make like a Instagram channel of it or a YouTube channel later, which is called the Love Letters, where I write a little piece of music, 1 page mostly. I handwrite the score for a friend of mine, like in any place in the world, and I write a little piece for this friend. And I entitle all of them are called love letters, and just depending on the number, they are in the order they are made. So love letter 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And I fold it and I send it in a letter. So that was my first project. Some of them are just poems that is she's supposed to just like improvise on it. And I make like this little book, and it's very like ecological, like the paper is like it's craft paper, and it's a little notebook, and I even included like few like blank pages to her, so she can during her walks write some melodies herself. And I sent it to her. That was I think my most special of the love letters, because it was like it took some months to do that. So I put like some transcriptions of bird calls, bird singing, and that was a really special one. And then while I was doing that to accustom myself to my new environment, I started to review scores that I had. So my biggest project was like this orchestral score that I was a little bit unhappy with the result of the score.
So which score, After the Rain?
No, that's an old one.
That's an old one, because I like
that one. It's called Terra Tenebra. And I started to work on that score with our mutual teacher, Marta. And
Marta, especially
Marta Ptazinska.
Yes.
And we started to work on that score. I started to work on that score with her. And when she left the University of Chicago, I had mostly like handwritten sketches of the piece. The piece evolved. I had a reading session with the Chicago Civic Orchestra. It was just like an 8-9 minute version of the piece. And then now I expanded to like somewhat like a 15-16 minute full piece that I'm more happy with. And that happened during the quarantine. So that was my big summer project for last year, expanding this piece and really trying to extract the most of the material. But then I started composing again, and one of the results is the Etude for Horn.
Yes.
And Alla Fibonacci, which is the video piece I did with it was a commission from the Toronto percussion, the University of Toronto percussion department. And they wanted a piece. The head of the studio is Ayun Huang, the Taiwanese percussionist, very famous.
Yes. Also from Soundscape, yes, from Soundscape.
Very true. Also from Soundscape.
I remember it was a great concert. She was performing there, right?
Yes, yeah, she's just like marvelous instrumentalist. So she commissioned me a piece with this premise of, Rodrigo, I want you to write something that could only exist in the internet. Something that is completely based on this time we're living now. So she sent to me like the quartet was only performers. They're all students of her at University of Toronto University, I'm sorry, that were quarantined. So one of them was in Panama, the other one back in New York, the other one in Vancouver, and the other one, I think only one of the students was in Toronto, but like isolated in her apartment. So the score looks a little bit like a script, and by saying that, I just remembered that the material, like the initial material for this piece, was also derived from the love letter that I wrote for percussion for a friend of mine, Sean Connors, member of the Third Coast Percussion in Chicago. And I wrote to him this love letter that looks like a board game. So it's full of music materials and instructions. And it's supposed to be like this drinking game or party game that you have with your other musician friends in a party for when things open up again. So I did this love letter that looks like really looks like a gaming board table or something, full of instructions and music material. And it's all based on Fibonacci. So everything's based on Fibonacci. That's why the musicians call out Fibonacci numbers during the whole piece. That's like the framing, the canvas of the piece. So then the material will be included, and everything in it, it's a Fibonacci number related. something. So
Rodrigo, do you have a score that you can show to us, even on the papers?
I have only a script. I don't have like a formalized score.
But can you show us the script, because I would love to play this piece at the end of our conversation, which is a
yes, I can show like snippets of the script for sure. I can show you the love letter, like how the board game would look, and yeah, so it was a different sort of like experience, because what I did is I handed the ensemble the script, and they had to record it with things they found it at home. They could find at home. So what I did also was to have very neat instructions on how to record it, because they had to match in order for me to edit properly later. Because a big part of the piece, it's the visual component, right? So that's why it only can exist in the internet, because it's a video piece basically. So there's a lot of color grading and weird editing that goes on that could not be part of like a live concert, for example. That was my premise to start this piece, the concept behind it. So, and everything is Fibonacci. So like the piece lasts exactly that 610 seconds, which is 5 minutes and 8 seconds. And 610, it's also a Fibonacci number. So even in the length of the piece, because I had that control, because it was a video piece, I could control when the piece would start and would end. And all the repetitions, because it's basically a bunch of interactions and iterations of repetitive patterns. And all these repetitions were calculated to sum up to Fibonacci numbers as well. So it's behind the piece, it's a very kind of like intrinsic and somewhat complex process that I took it on my own. The musicians, they never knew about this process. What I did was just give them how to record, what to record, which were like very small pieces of music material, and where to record. And then I did the work all by myself. So it was a piece that I worked from 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. to midnight, mostly 6 times a week, every day for a month to complete it. Because yeah, it was a lot of work, very rewarding in the end, because of the byproducts of the end, but very, very much demanding in terms of time, because video editing takes a lot of time, more time than writing music. So I had to kind of like build myself into a small residency at my own place, which meant I built like some sort of like a room for me, where I would stay for hours and hours every day, just get out to go to the restroom and eat, basically. But then the calculation worked, and the hours I was supposed to work on it worked, and I could deliver the piece.
Yes, we'll watch it. We will see it at the end of our conversation, this Alla Fibonacci. So people can actually see what we are talking about this composition. But I have a question for you, Rodrigo. Is this your first video piece ever, or have you ever had experience working videos?
First video piece ever.
First ever. Great.
Yes.
Wonderful. So you are very interested in this topic, also in your music, also finding inspiration, but you have find inspiration all around the world. I feel like you have from all different cultures, right? Also from ancient times or current times. And so tell me, when you start working on the pieces, because you have a lot of those cultural elements, do you come first from the idea with the inspiration, or later you find some topic? First you think about music, or first you have to something outside of music? So the question is, if you are thinking about abstract sounds and then you are trying to refer that, or there may be actually music comes from some different sources, from cultures. So how does it work in your case?
I think that's a very good question. I think it works in both ways, depending. I'm really the type of musician that I work, I tailor myself, I fit myself inside the project, and not the other way around. So for example, in this video piece, I tailor myself as a composer for that. And I hope always to have the baggage and the toolbox necessary for such task. If I don't, then I go and research about it. But I don't see myself as just one type of writing one type of music and in different sort of mediums and different sort of extra musical ideas behind it. So, for example, talking about percussion, I have a piece called Kodama, which is a piece for table percussion instruments. So the whole piece fits in a luggage, a valise, a traveling valise, basically, and it's for percussion quartet. I wrote for the Third Coast Percussion, and it's a piece heavily based on Balinese gamelan, very specific, not gamelan just in general, but like very specific to Balinese and Kebiar gamelan. So, which was one of my ethnomusicological researches during my PhD. So I read some books about it. I studied about it. I went to see gamelan performances in Chicago. And I came up with the idea to build this small pocket, sort of, not pocket, but like valise size gamelan. And this piece is very portable, so people like the quartet can travel with the piece, basically, and all they need is just like those foldable lobby tables that like any hotel or school will have, right? Those gray folding common
piece.
Like
it's like a pocket piece.
Yes,
it's like a laptop.
So, but that emerged from an extra musical, not extra music, because gamelan is totally musical. It's just it didn't come from my own toolbox or tradition, but it came from one of my researches, and I think that's so interesting for a composer to also be this sort of like musicology oriented or ethnomusicology oriented, because there are traditions even within our Western tradition that are very ancient, and they change so much over the centuries that sometimes we deal with it, but in a way that is completely contemporary. But they do have this other side to it, which is their ancient side of it, which is so interesting. I think of early music and the instruments we lost contact with, those sonorities, those tunings, that approach.
Do you play those instruments? Do you have a collection of instruments?
I have some. I have a tabla. I have bansuri. I'm the co-founder of the first Chinese traditional music ensemble in South America. I'm not part of the ensemble anymore, but I used to be the flutist for the ensemble. So
I remember.
I have flutes from Shanghai. I have flutes from Taiwan. My teacher is from Taipei. It's been a long time I don't practice, but I used to perform like on a monthly basis for the public here in Brazil. So all those elements, I think they bleed inside in my music, but I also do have just like pure musical ideas that, for example, alla Fibonachi, before it was just like this party game, percussion game, and all the ideas are just musical, right?
That's right.
They're all like musical ideas. So it really depends. For Terra Tenebra, my orchestral piece, we were just talking a little ago, I was trying to merge the idea of sound masses. Like, so all the sounds are very big and messy, like messy, not in with the A.
I know, of course.
With the E. Very much like in the
dense texture.
Very dense textures, because I was dealing with the study of like the how gravity operates around black holes.
But now I want to go back to this winning piece for the saxophone, Kundalini. It's striking very much, but because you are very sensitive for the colors, I think that's also very valuable when you also work with Marta Ptaszyńska, who was very sensitive for the colors, right? And working with percussions. But also was very much, we can talk about this piece because you wrote for a monophonic instrument, but it's a very polyphonic work, which is amazing. So, and if you can tell a few things, I can show the score here. I can share just what we are talking about. I noticed that you also composed the second part of this, right? Kundalini too, but we are talking about the first part of the composition, Kundalini, right? So this is a composition, this is the score, which have actually few kind of small movements, right? Regarding the, we have the Sakti Kundalini, right? You can see on the score, people who can watch it now, they can notice.
Kundalini and Para Kundalini, yes.
Exactly. So this is the score, yes, that won the prize, the first prize. So this is around 7 minutes, right? 6:30 long piece that we are talking. As you can see, there are many multiphonics and many unusual ways of playing of the saxophones, which create sometimes the polyphony. Rodrigo, can you tell a few words about this composition?
Sure. If we can go back to the first page.
Sure, yes.
The first page will already be self-explanatory about like the whole
yes,
material of the piece.
Yes.
The first page of the score. So if we go back, down, and that was like my
program notes.
So we go down a little bit more, please. And to the first, yes, that's perfect.
Okay.
So this piece, I had the first idea for this piece in 2013.
Okay.
And it was like I was still in Miami, finishing my master's there, and I got sick, very sick. And usually when I get sick and I have fever, I have like delusional dreams, which is very recurrent for me when I have a high fever. And that night I had like a fever, and I was up in my apartment, and I woke up around like 2-3 in the morning, having this nightmare. I just had this nightmare with this like fire snake that was like kind of like attacking me in the dark. So she was like, the snake was like glowing in the dark because she was very fiery, etc. And I woke up from that dream, and I sketched it. Unfortunately, I don't have the sketchbook here with me. It is back in Chicago with my things. But I sketched the piece basically in about like 20 minutes. That was the only and sole experience like that in my whole life as a composer, where the piece just came to my head as in a flash. So these three movements, the prana, the para, and the sakti kundalinis, they were kind of like layered out from the sketch. Like in the sketch, I did in my little notebook, I had like this 3 movement idea already like sketched out, and it was like the material I was like just like drawing basically in the score in the sketchbook. It had this separation, like there is like very particular material going on here and then there, and there's like this ritornello thing to the beginning. So that was sorted out there. The next step was I workshopped with this saxophonist called Elliot Gattegno.
Okay.
And I showed him this sketch, and he was like, and I told him about the dream, and he was like, wouldn't it be cool like if everything that I play doesn't sound corresponding to what I play? That would like bring like this dreamy idea of ours too. And I thought that idea very interesting. So I started to study how like microtonal and especially alternate fingering for a saxophone would work. And I had about 2 sessions with him to work on these gestures. And so if you see the first gesture, for example, that I have this plus B flat on top and a bracket, right? Covering like
that's right,
most of the first system of the score. So what that means is that you're gonna play those notes that it's in the score, for example, re mi, fa, etc., with the B flat key pressed. that instantly changed the whole pitches and qualities of the tones you're playing. So that's why in the score, instead of having only like this treble clef on it, I have tab.
Tablature.
Yes, like a tablature, because what you're playing is not actually what you're gonna hear. It's not actually what's gonna be sounding. So it's almost like a guitar tablature, but for saxophone. So, and then it becomes more and more complex. If you see like the last slap tone on the second system, you have to press so many C keys for it to work, right? So I worked from 2013 to 2014 until its premiere on this piece, basically. So I worked with, after Elliot, I worked with Alison Balchettis from University of Alberta in Canada, because we were going to have a premiere in Brazil with this piece. So that's when we came with the finalized first version, the 2014 version of Kundalini. And we premiered that, and it looks much similar to what you're seeing right now. Interestingly enough, I got in a competition in a festival in Florida 4 years later, 2018, where I worked with another saxophonist, Doug O'Connor, and that's the version we are seeing right now.
I see.
That's 2018 version of this piece, where we went even further on the alternate fingering. For example, I remember this very well. The last system of this very page you are, that very last gesture.
Here. This last one here.
This last very gesture.
Yes.
I don't remember having the C2, and I think the C2 was added. The C2 key was added in this 2018 edition, for example. So the piece didn't change in structure from my version with Alison, but it definitely got way more detail with the alternate fingering. To the final version, which I am very pleased with today. Like, it took like basically 5 years to complete this work. Something that I sketched in 20 minutes, it rendered me like 5 years of work on it. So for example, with Laurent now, for the competition, we rehearsed before we recorded the video, and he had his own ideas of some different alternate fingerings for some of the gestures, because he has a particular kind of alto saxophone that some of the gestures would work better with different keys. And I think that's the beauty of this piece. It's definitely one of those pieces where performers are truly invited to add their own sort of flavor to it.
Yes, and we're gonna have an interview with Laurent next week, and he actually gonna talk about this. Yes, so he also will mention about his way of fingering. Yes, so he'll also discuss.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, so I think that's basically it. So the trick of Kundalini, and I'm giving this out, I don't know if I should, but the trick of Kundalini is that almost anything you hear in this score is what is written. So that my first original idea for this score was even to have the score as it is, and then a transparent version of it in blue or red or some other color than just black ink, that the performer could put on top of the score, and then it would reveal the sounds he or she is playing.
Performing, yeah.
But that would be just too much trouble, and it changes so much from saxophone to saxophone that I gave up of the idea later. But that would be a cool thing to have.
Colors for this one. Yes, this is a great piece. You know, this is also have a. Okay, I'm gonna stop it because this is the ending here of this piece. Yes. Because this piece has so many possibilities, but it also uses the idea of the tablature, right? When you have this, but the effect is always different, and it's very unreal. And you can hear a lot of those things. If you're going to hear the saxophone sometimes, what you might ask yourself, is this a saxophone or no? Because you have such an unusual sound. So you create a kind of new instruments from the old instrument. You know, and I also feel that, Rodrigo, I don't know if you agree with me, in your music, because you go back to the ancient times, ancient cultures, but you are revising this. So what you are doing in your music, you are transforming it, all of the elements, that you create something really new, something new from our current times, with the colors, with your voice. And you can also see in this piece, but you wrote the Kundalini too, right? Kundalini too. So tell me, this is about, is this like a continuation or something different? Just a few words about this.
It's a completely different piece. It's now for a soprano saxophone, and it's again derived from another Kundalini breathing technique. Now the whistle breathing, called the whistle breathing in English. And this piece is much longer. The pace is way more tranquil. Related to the breathing and meditation technique. Of course, Kundalini meditation derives from yoga practice.
Yoga, yes.
And so it's a completely different piece.
But do you practice yoga, Rodrigo?
I do practice yoga.
Oh, okay, that was another question.
Yes, but I didn't when I wrote the first Kundalini. I recently started 2 years ago practicing yoga.
Oh, I see. So after the piece.
And so that was like almost like a glimpse into the future of what my future would be. It was really like a magical moment for me. Kundalini 1, that never happened again. It was like those type of convergences that happen that are unique in many ways. But it's a completely different piece, and I'm gonna write Kundalini 3 and 4 for baritone and for tenor and baritone.
All the saxophones, wonderful.
All the saxophones family. So each one of the saxophones family will have, or at least the most important ones from the saxophone family will have a Kundalini, and they're totally shaped towards that instrument. So I see a lot of like baritone pieces that are written as like an alto or soprano saxophone would be written for, like very agile with like a lot of notes. Like the alto piece, Kundalini 1, it's totally for alto. Like you don't feel the inertia or the effort of the instrument to try to pronounce those phrases. Same thing with the soprano Kundalini, the second Kundalini, working on those altissimo registers. That's just natural for the soprano, and I worked for that. I worked with Alison Balchettis again on the fingerings and etc. to make it really organic and idiomatic to the instrument. So I'm gonna follow the same idea for the tenor and baritone pieces that could only exist for those types of saxophones. And that's a challenge for me as a composer. What do I can extract from this instrument that can sound, as you said, that can transform it into something unreal, but at the same time is like enhancing the tradition of this instrument, and of course how to relate that with some sort of Kundalini type of breathing technique or meditation. That's also like an extra musical concept I put into on the Kundalinis, and I follow, and it aids me in how I'm going to compose that piece in question.
So we wish you, Rodrigo, that you will write another amazing Kundalini for the different saxophones, right? And we are looking forward for that. But you know, before we end our conversation, I would love to see those maybe sketches, because we're gonna play this a la Fibonachi. But if you can play this script, okay? You can just show us our love letters. Yes. We would love to see them, okay?
I found the love letter.
Okay.
Here.
Oh, that's a love letter. Love letter number 6. We can see.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Number 6. Number
6. And I wrote it for my friend Sean Connors. These are the instructions. So basically you need 2 people, no maximum of people to play this game. And you have 2 parts, part A and part B, and they are confronting each other. So part A, that's when the idea of counting came from. So they will count and clap in this specific rhythm, which produces, like if you're counting on 8th notes, the ones, the twos, the threes, the fives, the eights, and the 13s.
That's right. That's right.
And then if you repeat this very number of times, each one of the countings bars, you arrive at a 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
That if you do it with part B, and then I put it as a game, I put like the easy, level 1 easy, level 2 medium, and level 3 hard, and then you can unlock a new level as in the game. And then you have the tutorial. I wrote like, instead of like performance notes, I wrote like tutorial, like just as in the game, to produce like this aesthetics and idea. And they can grab like whatever, like tinkling sounds, like cereal bowls, glasses, whatever they can find in a kitchen, for example, or if they have percussion instruments at home, they can do it as well. But they have to have 5 different pitches to it, right?
Right.
So if they, for example, if they play level 1 40 times against this part A, both part A and part B will arrive at 1. And the funny process of the game is that perhaps B will make a mistake or something. So then when part A arrives at 1, B will be behind, or the other way around. So they only win if both parts get it together.
Right.
If they don't, they have to switch. So another person takes part A, or a group of people takes part A, and the rest takes part B, right? So it emerged from there.
So that's great.
Then, and then I for the percussion ensemble, I started making like instructions.
What they need to do, recording,
how they are going to record, exactly, how the metronome will be working. So like the 8th note equals 120, or the second, right, quarter note equals 60. So very like non-musical stuff, as you can see, like how to orient the camera, how the quality of the recording and the frames per second should be recorded at.
Yes,
so all these sorts of challenges emerge from this sort of piece that are not musical, which is fascinating. For example, what type of cell phone do you have to record this? Like, can your cell phone record at 4K or just 180 pixels? So because we had to align, in the end, like for example, 3 of them had 4K cell phones, 1 of them had 108p max. So we had to go down to 180p because there is no reason to record 3 in 4K and 1, because they have to all look the same. How to make it like the background completely dark, so for some of the takes. What type of walls do you have? Do you have like a texture wall or like a slick wall, so that we could record the countings? I had also like how to record the instruments, like the sort of framing, the vertical and the horizontal framing. And then I did like some examples of myself on how to record. And then this is the first part for the musician, for example, and then they can record the counting. That's how the counting worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave some instructions, like look straight at the camera, but then every time you repeat the counting, you take another counting, like another persona, another character to your counting, so that I could have some contrast, as you would have in music, right? If you write for different combinations of instruments the same melody, you're going to have a different persona. If you put a different dynamic or different articulations, you're going to build a different character to that same melody. So I use the same idea, but with actually acting, right? So they had to act a little bit. So it's a very demanding piece to record.
Great to see that. Great to see that, everything.
And then I had the music. The music could be downloaded right here. So, I think that was already erased. I think I erased the music files. But here they would have like very short music being written. For example, I might have something here that could have one of the scores in it. So here, for example, another example of takes, because they have that section with the hands. See if instruments being recorded, how to record instruments. And yeah, all the music is already, I think, deleted. Perhaps not. Perhaps here has, here, for example, very simple music, right, for a percussionist to play. But then what I would do here, like the after process, the post process, post recording, that what made the music how it was. And I had like a somewhat like a plan for it. I don't know if I can find it, Jakob, like right now.
No, but Rodrigo, that's everything fine, great. We just listen to we're just gonna get idea, Okay, so that's fantastic. Everything is really enough for us. Is everything amazing? If people got interested, they can contact with you also regarding the details. But that's great, that's what everything explained. Now we're gonna listen after our conversation, this piece, Alla Fibonachi. And I would like to thank you very much, Rodrigo, for this sharing, for this wonderful projects. And wish you all the best. Also, that soon you will get vaccinated and you will come back to finish your PhD at the University of Chicago. And as I mentioned, we are looking forward also for the public voting for the 4 pieces that won the competitions for the saxophone, trombone, the horn, and the trumpet. And the winning public award will be performed at the Chopin and Friends Festival this year. So, Rodrigo, thank you very much. Again, congratulations for this amazing work, Kundalini, and all the best for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me today, Jakob. It's a pleasure to speak with you again. And I hope people can enjoy our conversation. And please get in touch with me, Rodrigo Bussad, on Facebook or on any other platform.
Instagram, maybe. Would you have Instagram?
Instagram, yes, Rodrigo Bussad. That's my name on Instagram as well. I'm always there posting new works and collaborations and all the things I'm doing. So yeah, I hope to get in touch with new people, and thank you so much again for having me in your series.
Yes, so just follow Rodrigo on the social medias, and now listen to this brand new work, Alla Fibonachi. Thank you, Rodrigo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye.
1, 2.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2,
3,
5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 13. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. 13. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. 13. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5. 8. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1.